going on in Ukraine as we talk. It seems that Pokrovsk is falling and the situation, and Russia is advancing on Ukrainian soil. And how do you see the battlefield and what's going on the battlefield? Is it going to help the Trump's position?
Is it going to help?
The Trump's position, make Trump's position even better to negotiate, to talk with the Russian president?
No, the war is pretty much over in terms of the Russian army defeating the Ukrainian army. They have cauldrons around specific areas. 2 Sundays ago, Putin himself appeared in fatigues for an ostensible briefing from the chief of the general staff. And what he was told was, we've got 2 cauldrons going, 10,500 Ukrainian soldiers caught in these cauldrons. And the first thing Putin says, well, now look, don't kill them all. We want to take them as POWs. Okay, so make that clear. If they'll surrender, that would be really good for them, because otherwise, they're surrounded. Okay, and by the way, you wanted to brief me on this new weapon, Chief of Staff. Would you tell me about this Burovyesnik? What is it? So he gets the 9 yards about this nuclear propelled, nuclear powered cruise missile can stay up for almost forever, and can have a range. Well, how far did that fly, General? 14,500 kilometers. And could it fly? Yeah. How long was it up there? 14 hours. Yeah. So, in other words, here's Putin saying, look, West, look, Trump, we got this one. Okay. Now, we're willing to go pretty far. And we're also willing to make sure that that we have this nuclear deterrent that you won't believe until you see it. And to ensure that you could see it, we told your intelligence people before we tested it.
Okay. Yeah.
So please believe this, okay? So I think Putin is sitting high, but he's still worried as hell that people like Hegseth or Rubio or Kellogg, that they have the president's ear. And that makes the president unpredictable, which is the worst kind of thing in an American president that the Russians have always been afraid of. And so they're on tenterhooks. And the big thing, and I'll end with this, is their proposal, which is 7 weeks old now, made on the 22nd of September. New START is over. It expires on February 5th, but we're willing to keep the quantitative limits on your offensive missiles, whether they're ICBMs or sea-launched ballistic missiles or bombers. We'll keep them at 1,550 if you do. And we could do that for a whole year, and maybe you can sort this thing out. What do you think? And 2 weeks ago, Trump says, in answer to a question from the press, he said, well, sounds like a good idea to me. But Lavrov and Putin are saying, we'd really like something more official. What are you going to? So, in my view, this is the litmus test. If Trump can't do this very sensible thing that requires no extra care, just keep the limits on for another year. If he can't do that, I think Putin is going to have to conclude that, man, this guy may want to do this, but if he does want to do it, and he's not just pulling our leg, he's not his own man. He's got to listen to Rubio and Tex.
Yeah.
So what does that leave the Russians with? Well, the Russians inexorably will win the war in Ukraine. They want a bigger settlement, but they're willing to wait. Hello, they have 3 more years of Trump. Maybe he'll change his mind again. I think that they have a relaxed posture, except for this notion that these crazies might persuade Trump to do something really crazy.
Ray, I'd be interested. You've rubbed shoulders and elbows with the great so-called in Washington over the years. How do you interpret why do you think Trump has surrounded himself by many of these know nothings, no background, strict ideologues, contribute almost nothing? What is the source of their influence? Is it the so-called military-industrial complex? I find that I'm still baffled by why Trump would listen to these guys who are obviously wrong.
Well, so am I baffled. I won't pretend to be otherwise. So what do? I ascribe it to delusional narcissism. I mean, he apparently believes that he can do this. He can do this all by himself. If he has to keep a couple of neocons like Rubio on, and has to keep Kellogg with his portfolio, he can do that. Every now and then he'll flip them something to eat. But no, I'm in control. I can do all this stuff myself. Now,
Maybe.
militating against that is his zigzags, his roller coaster approach. Okay, let's have a summit. No, let's not have a summit. So Lavrov and Putin are saying, look, he's circumscribed. He really can't do everything he wants to do because he has to answer Russophobia in Washington and in Europe. So that's the only conclusion they can draw if they want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But
Yeah.
that's good enough. That's my guess, and it's
Yeah,
really
I share I'm not entirely happy with that explanation, but it's what we've got there right now. It seems to me, though, that certainly the battlefield is extraordinarily important, all important in this. But in the end, somebody has got to work out the politics that is going to save face for Trump. And that's tricky. To hell with Zelensky. I don't think Zelensky matters. I mean, maybe he's a brave guy. Maybe he's rallied his nation. That's fine. But I don't think anybody owes much to Zelensky. But Trump has to save face in some way, and I don't know what that device will be. Maybe some of these Russian conquests are designed to be, what's the word? Trading pieces on the board.
yeah. I guess the only thing we know for sure is what happened in Alaska. And that's become clearer with Lavrov talking about what Trump allegedly promised with respect to restraining Zelensky. In other words, Trump gave way. Trump said, all right, I won't keep pressing for an immediate ceasefire. You guys don't want that? All right, I give up. We're not going to do that anymore. We'll go for the whole enchilada. A peace deal that includes recognizing your core interests. The
Yeah.
other thing was Trump saying, and this was clear from the readout, such as it was, Trump saying, okay, now I'm going to deal with Zelensky. I'm going to prevent him from putting the kibosh on this whole thing. And the Europeans, they don't matter. I'm going to have them in the White House. I give them the script here and say, look, no more aid from us to Ukraine. You're welcome to do that yourself, and we'll take care of this. Now, Trump didn't do that.
He did not do that. That's right.
Yeah, so he reversed himself to the point where this Budapest summit that Trump proposed, all of a sudden he said, well, no, we're not ready. We better not have that. So the Russians are sitting back saying, what the hell is going on here? And they're being overly sugary, if you can use that expression. They're saying, well, he has his real problems. Budapest is not canceled. It's still possible. And we'll send Dmitriev to talk about economic progress in that tunnel under the Bering Strait. So there's sort of conflictual streams in the Russian leadership as well, with Medvedev saying, no, we're in a war. Yeah, we can't deal with this guy anymore. And Medvedev and Lavrov saying, no, we're still trying to get the U.S. to say whether, in their view, in the U.S. view, those agreements at Alaska still obtained. So,
yeah.
You know what's going on? As time goes by, we see that we know that Donald Trump hates to play with a losing hand. That's why he's trying to do everything to put pressure on India, China, which didn't work. He's talking about Turkey, and it doesn't seem that Turkey gonna obey the Trump administration. But how about the invitation, the visit of Central Asian countries? Because he tries to do something in Central Asia together with what's going on in Syria. How do you find the whole picture when you bring all these players in? It seems to me that Trump is trying to do everything that may bring some sort of leverage on the Russian government, which, in my opinion, that would not happen. But what is your take on that?
Well, I think we have to remember that the Central Asian states, above all, their main focus is Moscow. That's who they have to live with. That's who they have to deal with. It's whom they've dealt with for several hundred years. So I would be very surprised to see much independent initiative on the part of any of the Central Asian states. It could be, maybe, if there's some sweetener that was involved in the whole thing. But I think Trump is, as you say, Nima, is casting around for potential allies who can help him out of this situation. And there are probably not very many countries that want to do it because it's not a very welcome task. It will be Washington will not be happy even if they make even if they saves Washington's face, they will. It's still an awkward situation. So I don't know where he's going to find anybody with real credibility, and I don't think Central Asia is the place to go for that at all.
Yeah. Ray, do you find that the situation, because the Syrian president went to Russia and talked with the Russian president, and it seems that the outcome of the meeting was somehow positive, as was reported by the Russian president and by the Russian officials. Then we've learned that Donald Trump, which was supposed to withdraw the force, that the soldiers from Syria, they have decided to put to send more troops and to make a new base or occupy a new base close to Damascus. How do you see the play in Syria? How do you see the because after all, I really believe that beside what's going on with the case of the West Asia, it's a playground for Russia and the United States to confront each other. How do you feel? How do you find that, Ray?
Well, Nima, first off, with respect to Putin, the visuals were lousy. Putin going up in his Jelani, about twice his size, and shaking hands with a known ISIS head chopper. I mean, I thought that was really unfortunate. Now, I'm a member of the realism school of international relations, okay? But I also have human tendencies. That was a little too much for me, all right? So I started thinking, why? Well, Putin is above everything a realist. He wants to develop good relations with whoever is running Syria now. I mean, the Russians have. I think they still have an air base there. Do they? Do they have still Latakia? I mean, that's
I don't know
big.
about an air. They certainly, I think, still have their naval base up in the northwest.
Yeah. So there's a presence there. Realist school of people do what realism dictates, and that is if it's a head chopper, but he's in control of Syria. So you meet with him and you shake his hand, and you look at him and say, well, welcome to the real world. Now, as far as Trump is concerned, it was really bizarre. I think it was just yesterday where they went behind closed doors, no photograph, no video, nothing. The only thing we have is from the Syrians, and they have pictures of Jolani or whatever his name is changed to, and Trump. So Trump is trying to make sure that he does Israel's bidding. Israel is behind this whole thing with respect to Syria. Israel wants to have a decent relationship with Jolani, and the U.S. is a good place to broker that. The Israelis already taken over the Golan Heights with express permission from Trump. They've worked their way into Syria, farther west. And as long as the Turks don't come in real big, in my view, and Graham, you'll know more about this than I do, in my view, that as long as Giuliani has some support from the U.S. and the U.S. supports Israel, then Giuliani is happy to let Israel have its way up to a certain point. And that's at the core of all this stuff, just as it is at the core of all U.S. policy toward that area of the world.
Yeah, well, to the degree, I think, what is it, Giuliani or Shara, I think is his name now, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he wants to keep his seat. That's the number one goal of every single ruler up and down the Gulf, maybe outside the Gulf as well. But so I think there is no other power. Giuliani or Shara would rather deal with Washington directly, I think, than with Bibi. God knows. But this guy, I mean, I guess Washington and Russia are kind of jockeying a little bit for position to see who can have some kind of voice in the new Syria and what the new Syria will be. But I think it's far from clear who this guy is, what he wants. He used to be a head chopper, as you say, extreme religious right winger. But, you know, you can change if your job depends on that.